academics tend to be good researchers, they're good writers, and they're good at managing their own time. And those are things that are extremely valuable to freelancing. It's not just freelance writing, there's other freelance niches too that the academics are well suited to. But for me, I was able to get into writing about marketing because I had research skills that I gained from my background in anthropology. I like to tell people that I use my anthropology degrees every day of the week because I use the skills that I gained from those degrees to do a good job as a freelancer. And so that's why I think other academics are also well suited for it.
Welcome to Grad School, a podcast about how to organize your genius for greater professional opportunities and a thriving life. As a high achiever, creative, and multifaceted person, you are always on the brink of your next big project or career move. So each episode, we discuss how to plan, pivot, or progress toward your next big move with confidence. Welcome to Grad School. I am your host, Dr. Fatimah Williams. I am so excited for today's guest. I get to speak with Courtney Danyel, who quite frankly just has one of the most interesting stories that we've had on the podcast to date. So Courtney is a business writer and content strategist with more than 10 years of experience in professional writing. She was in a doctoral program in anthropology, so shout out to all our fellow anthropologists. And she decided to leave with her master's in anthropology and move to Ethiopia. In the meantime, became a freelancer, and she shares with us in this episode her experience with figuring out her skill set, figuring out how to apply her skill set to the marketplace, and then also how to value her work in a way that would create a life for herself and her family as she now lives in Ethiopia with her husband and also foster children. So listen, Courtney Danyel is dropping some bombs here, and she's sharing some things that are going to help you if you are thinking about how to move forward your career with maybe some freelancing or side work, or just want to test out your writing skills and see what you can earn on the side for those. This is definitely an episode for you. And even if you're just interested in how do I begin consulting, there's some real good crossover gems in this episode with Courtney. I am so excited to have my guest with me today, Courtney Danyel, business writer, content strategist, and creator of Academia to Affluence. Thank you so much, Courtney, for joining us this morning or evening for you, I guess.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So let's just jump right into it. You and I, we met because you reached out to me around some collaboration that we could potentially do. And that simple email turned into us actually collaborating in ways that I don't think we'd seen or anticipated. For those who are listening, Courtney, business writer and content strategist, has been invaluable as a partner and collaborator with the Genius Retreat. And so, Courtney, let's jump into, tell us, what is business writing and what is content strategy?
Okay. So business writing, at least the business writing that I do, it's a freelance niche that I kind of got into. I kind of just stumbled into after leaving academia. And it's something that I've been doing for 6 years now. And businesses need all sorts of content, especially now in the age of the web, where they need stuff for their blog, they need stuff for their online marketing content, things that they post on social media, white papers and reports that they create to attract leads to their business so that they can nurture those leads and turn them into sales. And so that's what business writers help with, is creating the content that can help businesses turn their prospects into paying customers.
hmm And so for you with, I heard you say, and I know a little bit about your background in terms of having a graduate degree. You have a master's in anthropology. Yay, anthropologist.
Yeah.
I'm a fellow anthropologist myself, by training. When you started your master's degree, did you have the idea that you would go into business writing, or were you considering something else?
Yeah, absolutely not on the business writing. I was planning to go all the way and do the PhD and hopefully either get some kind of job in the private sector related to, my anthropology background, or if I was lucky to, go on to become a tenured professor. That was my dream at the time.
And so, what changed for you that shifted you into the master's degree rather than the doctorate? And then the next shift, it sounds like, is getting into this form of writing and freelancing.
Yeah, so I started my master's with the intention just to continue on, finish the master's and then continue on with my PhD. But the reason that I ended up changing my path, and I did that pretty drastically, was basically burnout, for lack of a better explanation. But like I was, by the time I was 24, I had my master's. So I had just like plowed right through my undergrad. I had plowed right through my master's, and I was enrolled and all signed up to continue with my PhD at a different university. And so I kind of had this like break in the summertime where I wasn't affiliated with the university for the first time in my adult life, where I had just finished one degree and I was about to start another one. And I was quite burnt out by that point. And I went to do field work, which is my favorite part of anthropology, in Ethiopia that summer. And it was my first time to Ethiopia. And I fell in love with the country and I felt so good. And like I felt in such a good mental place here that I wanted to come back. And I did not want to go back to that windowless office in some university building. I didn't want to do that. I decided that at that point. And so I decided I needed to get back to Ethiopia, but I didn't have, I needed to also be able to support myself. And so I did what most smart young women do. And I asked my mom what I should do. And
I love it. I love that.
And my mom, I should say, has been working online since I was a kid, which is impressive because, she's been working online since like 1999. And she said, well, why don't you just work online? And then you can go live wherever you want and do whatever you want. And so that's how I got into freelance writing, was basically because I wanted to travel to Africa and have that location independence. And so that's how I got into it originally.
I love that. And can I say kudos to your mom? I mean, I think a lot of people feel the pressure of conforming, right? Like conforming to whatever the status quo is, or conforming to like the thing that you initially said you wanted to do, right? So, I initially, right, wanted to get the PhD. I initially wanted to be a faculty member. And I think sometimes the people around us don't know how to support us when we are changing and evolving. So kudos to your mom for creating a space where you could evolve.
Yeah, she's really good in that respect. She was the one who got me into anthropology in the first place. And then when I decided I wanted out of it, she facilitated that also.
Oh, I love that. So tell me about your first paid writing gig. Like walk me through from, prospect to, wow, I'm so glad I delivered this piece to them.
So if I'm going to tell you about my very first writing gig, it's not going to be like a really nice, positive experience because I didn't know what I was doing when I first got into freelance writing online. And so I basically had to start from square one. And I needed to earn money quickly because I had bills to pay. And so when I first actually started writing, I had no like writing niche or anything like that. I didn't do any type of writing, specific type. I just wanted paying gigs. And so I actually got on this freelancing website called Fiverr. I don't know, maybe you've heard of it. But
absolutely. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you are so much better than that.
Well, yeah. So no, we'll get to that point. But I'm talking. You asked me about the first gig, so I'm telling you about the first.
Yes,
gig.
Please do. And this is the real story, right? I mean, this
Yeah.
is a lot of freelancing and entrepreneurship. Is like it was crappy in the beginning, and then we like course correct along the way. So please go.
Yeah, you got to learn from your mistakes and stuff. And well, I guess the point to make about this, I guess I'll make the point at the end, is that imposter syndrome follows you outside of academia. And so as far as I was concerned, I had no qualifications as a writer, and I did not deserve to be paid well as a writer. I was wrong, but that's how I felt at the time. And so I was on Fiverr, and I started out just because I needed quick money. I just started out writing press releases for people. And so those were the first writing gigs I had, was writing press releases. And I did that for an extremely short period of time because the pay was horrible. And I very quickly moved on to better writing gigs.
Okay. So then maybe walk us there to how you realize, you know what, this is not the way. Fiverr is not going to get me there. And listen, I think Fiverr is great for some things, right? But I think for creating a sustainable business with a life that you actually enjoy, AKA the work you do pays you well enough to do that, and you're valued and you have a relationship with your customers, Fiverr then is not going to be the site. Now, maybe somewhere like Upwork, which is, similar in the fact that it's sourcing talent, but it's sourcing a higher level talent, if you will. So I just want to make that distinction for our listeners, because some may not be familiar with these different platforms that can help them get their work out in the world, or their skill, for others to find them. And so the objection here is not so much that you shouldn't be on these platforms, just choosing well, right? So tell me about then the shift from you're on the hamster wheel of Fiverr and you're like, this is absolutely not going to work for me. What happens next?
Yeah. So I knew that this wasn't going to work, and I wasn't going to be able to afford to have the kind of life that I wanted, just writing press releases for $5. And so I started looking into other freelance sites to apply for jobs on, like you recommended. I think freelancer sites are great. And at the time, Upwork didn't exist 6 years ago, but there was, Odesk and Elance and Guru. And I got a job on Guru. Well, at first I was only writing about stuff that really related to my background in anthropology. And so I was writing for a couple of NGOs and human rights organizations, but they couldn't afford to pay me very much money either, right? And so I'm like, okay, I need to break out into something a more lucrative niche. And so I ended up getting this job on Guru writing marketing content. And I've never taken a marketing class in my life. I don't know why they hired me, but I was like, I'll just figure it out as I go along. I'm a good researcher. I will figure it out. That's what I decided. So that's what I did. And I started writing marketing content for them. And I was doing that for a few months. And the pay was not super great either. But like I said, I didn't think I deserved very good pay because I didn't know a lot about marketing. And so each time they would give me a topic to write about, I would just go to Google and research it and learn the terminology and produce content for them. And they seemed to really like it. And then one day I was doing research for an article for them, and I was on Google and I found this article. It was published, I believe it was on Forbes.com. And I went and I clicked on the article and I started reading it, and I realized that it sounded familiar. And then I realized that I had written it.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I feel like this is like a cliffhanger. So
yeah.
Was that yay, I wrote an article for Forbes, or hey, I didn't get paid what I know they got paid to submit this article to Forbes? Which was it?
It was the second one.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. I knew I was doing ghostwriting for people where they were publishing it. I was writing something and they were publishing it under their name. I knew that was something that I was doing. I had no idea that I was ghostwriting for CEOs of Fortune 500 businesses who were publishing at Forbes and business.com and Vice and stuff like that. I had no idea. But apparently that's what was going on. And so I realized that. And then I started Googling all the content that I'd written over the past few months, and it was all over all these top websites, and I had no idea. And so then I'm mad because I deserve more money at this, this proves my writing is worthwhile and that it's good and that I have good advice for people, and I can create valuable content for people. And so that was a turning point for me where that's when I realized that I really was worth the money. And then, so what I did was I dropped that client and I created my own website with my own rates on it. And then I started pitching people instead of just applying for gigs on freelance sites. And I think at that point, I tripled my rates. And then that's when I started getting paid well. And I have been writing the marketing niche ever since.
Oh, I love a good triumph story. This is so good. It has all the hero elements to it, of the underdog who was done wrong, but came back and made a comeback. But here's the reason why it's so, we're laughing, but what I can really identify with is going into entrepreneurship, not particularly with a business background, and perhaps not even particularly looking to really be very formal about the work, right? Like, you knew that you wanted something that would allow you to live in Ethiopia, that would give you that location independence, that would allow you to pay your bills and do pretty well for yourself, right? But I think what I identify with is the rough and rocky start. And I don't think that people talk enough about the challenge of getting started. And not just the challenge, but also what I hear in your story is a persistence to figure it out, get better, and also get better at positioning yourself. So not just like, oh, my skill needs to be better, but how do I better position myself to get out of this what I want out of it? And that for me it's a very powerful story in that regard.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I think that pretty much any academic who wants to get into entrepreneurship, they already have the skills they need to succeed at it. But what's going to determine whether they succeed or not is their perseverance and their desire to figure out the right path to succeed.
And I might also add there that it's being comfortable with the fact that your work has value, right? And actually positioning yourself and learning what that value is based on what the market says it is, not based on what your feelings say it is.
Yeah, because your feelings can be wrong. And especially in both ways, because I felt that like my work wasn't particularly valuable at all. And it turns out it was. And if I had realized that earlier, I could have earned a lot more money earlier on.
Mm-hmm. And so tell me a little bit about the lifestyle that this work has afforded you.
Yeah. So like I said, I originally got into it because I wanted to go back to Ethiopia. And I'll be honest, I met a guy here, so in Ethiopia. So I wanted to go back and be with him. And he and I ended up getting married, and we've been here for the past 6 years together. And so I originally got into it because I wanted to travel and experience culture, but then I also ended up kind of setting up roots in Ethiopia. But it's been really good also because my job that I have right now has given me every ability to travel, to go back home and visit my family, to visit my family. I have family living in Europe also, and to travel around a lot, except for this year.
Right, of course. Thanks, COVID. Yeah.
So I've had that flexibility. And then the other thing that I've been able to do that I don't think I would have been able to do if I didn't live this life is that my husband and I have 3 foster kids that I homeschool and take care of. And if I had a desk job, I wouldn't be able to do that. So basically having this job, this flexibility has determined every aspect of my life right now.
Hey there, just a quick reminder to get your free planning toolkit. These are my 5 favorite pages of the Professional Pathways Planner, which I designed to help you jumpstart any big project. Listen, I know that as a creative, a high achiever, someone who's got a lot of great ideas, sometimes we need to get clear on our idea, then identify the steps to execute on that big idea or big project, And of course, along the way, not forget or skip key tasks or even those hidden tasks. When you sit down and you say, all right, I'm going to work on this chapter, or I am going to outline this piece of artwork or set up this interview. But then you forget all of those hidden tasks that it takes to get it done. So that's why I developed the planning toolkit as a part of the Professional Pathways Planner, and I'm offering it free to you. My planning community members use this tool religiously, and I use it religiously to get big things done. So I know that you're busy, you don't have a lot of time or energy to waste. Your genius must get out into the world. So go ahead to bit.ly/planning toolkit to get your planning toolkit today. For people who are listening and they're thinking about, maybe for them it's not full-time entrepreneurship, maybe it's just freelancing on the side of what they do. Let's give them a better picture or a clearer picture of the life cycle of a project. So, and this is in an ideal kind of scenario now that you're in a better place with relationships with clients. Walk us through a client contacting you. They're on your site. They like what they see, and they would like for you to write a piece for them. Maybe walk us through some of the key steps of that.
Yeah. So, especially for somebody who wants to do freelancing as a side hustle, or I don't know if you like that word or not, or to do it to supplement what they're already doing in their main job. There's lots of ways you can set up your projects with your clients so that they don't dominate your time. And that's the important thing, because if you don't manage it well, then small projects that can end up taking up a lot of your time. And so what I try to do with my clients whenever possible, I don't like to work at an hourly rate. I like to charge per project. Like I charge a per project rate. And so usually when a client or a potential client, or even a previous client has come to my site and they want me to work on something, before I quote them a price, I have a list of questions that I ask them about the project. Like for example, how long is the word count? Do you need me to source images for you? Do you need me to look up additional research, and different things like that, that impact how much time a project will take? And then once I've gotten that clear picture for them, then I quote them a price. And I usually quote them, like I do a quote in my head of how much I think the project's worth. And then I add 10% on top of that just to make sure that I get paid well.
Yeah. And just for clarity for people who are thinking about this, that 10% can be important whether you're doing something like freelancing or even consulting, because projects like these can often have scope creep. Or, where you thought it was one thing and then you get all the materials that you've requested from the client and it's like, oh my gosh, this is a little bit different from what they described. And not because they were meaning to be dishonest, but perhaps they just didn't have the language to fully describe what the project was about, because they don't know the work that you have to do to deliver the quality that they're looking for, right? So the 10% extra is the buffer that you still feel good about the work that you can deliver. And that you've built in room for the inevitable, like extra time it's going to take, because we all tend to underestimate time on task.
Yep.
So then when you say, okay, so the project is there, you've asked the questions. And then I imagine the clients are also then providing you with background information as much as they can or as much as they have. And then you kind of get going with your writing. What's the relationship then like with the client? What are you doing with them next?
It really depends on the client. Some clients, they like to get on the phone to discuss the project, especially in the beginning. I'm flexible and I'm fine with that. And I usually do, with new clients, I do one phone call for free. And then after that, I charge an hourly rate for phone calls, because otherwise some of them will just want to be like, oh, let's hop on a call, every day. And then that's another thing that takes up a bunch of your time. But other than that, usually I get all the briefs, all the information from them. And I use that to create a contract. And that's another important thing that you can do to avoid scope creep also. Get everything that you're going to be working on in writing and get you guys both to agree and sign off on it. And then later on down the road, if they're like, oh, this is not really what I wanted, actually what I really wanted was something else, and then the project suddenly is going to take you more time, then you could say, okay, well, this is also outside of what we agreed on in the contract. So for that reason, I'm going to have to charge an additional amount for these additional services, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So we usually do a contract. It seems like it might seem, especially if you have a lot of clients, it might seem like a unnecessary, especially because if you work on a place like Upwork or something, they create a contract for you. But like I said, it's just good to have those things in writing for that reason. And so I do that with them, and then usually I get started on the project. And some clients want an outline, some clients want a first draft. The ones that I've worked with for years, they usually skip the outline and they just want a finished product because they know I do a good job. But it really depends on the needs of the client. And you should quote your price based on, how many steps they're going to take you through. Because if you send them an outline in an email, you got to wait, 5 or 6 days for them to review the outline and send it back to you. Then you got to send a draft and you got to wait for them to send it back to you. And suddenly a very small project can take weeks.
That's interesting, right? Because from the entrepreneur's perspective, you want to be able to start and close a project as efficiently as possible.
Exactly.
Yeah, because otherwise then you've got 5 clients, but if they're all backed up because they're taking forever, then you can't get your next 5 because now you're overwhelmed.
Yep. That's the biggest challenge for freelancers. I'm not trying to make a negative thing. This is just a different kind of balance than a 9-to-5 job, is that, you have to balance, there'll be a week where you don't have much going on at all. And then next week you got 5 deadlines. So one thing you have to be good at as a freelancer is being like, okay, well, I need to start working on those projects right now. Otherwise I'm going to be completely overwhelmed next week.
Mm-hmm. So you get to something that I wanted to know more about is, what are the skills and competencies that you think, one needs to be able to be good at freelance writing, and not just good at the writing itself, but the business aspects of it and the client relationship aspects of it?
Yeah. So the big one, which I was just kind of alluding to, was time management. That's a huge skill. You can't be a procrastinator. So that's really important in order to manage your own schedule. Be good at being your own boss, managing your own time. And you also have to not be afraid to reach out to people, which I have to admit, when I first started, that was a struggle for me. I didn't like cold pitching people and reaching out. But that's the best way to get the most, like all my highest paying clients have come from cold pitching. And we wouldn't even be on this call right now if I hadn't cold pitched you, So that's how you get opportunities. And so you need to be comfortable reaching out. You need to be comfortable marketing yourself online. It's more than just putting up a website. You need to present it to people and show yourself off as a professional. So those things are really important things.
Mm-hmm. And so what would you say then are the least enjoyable parts of this work for you, or the challenges?
The least enjoyable parts would be what we've already kind of talked about a little bit, which is just like waiting for clients to get back to you, because you have something you need to be working on and you're just waiting for their feedback. So the least enjoyable part, it depends on the client. Some clients are really great, but you just have to, sometimes you got to send a few follow-up emails. So that's not very enjoyable.
Yeah, no, that's really great to know too, because I feel like I probably owe you some documents.
I'm sorry, it's not about you.
No, this is very helpful to know, but I think on so many levels, it's helpful to know. So you are so committed to helping others, and especially academics, to be able to transition into freelance writing, that you've created a course around this. Can you tell us about your course, Academia to Affluence?
Yeah, so this is something I never thought I would be doing. I would be making online courses. That was never my plan. But after I left academia and I started freelancing, I started to get emails and messages from former colleagues and like people from my graduate cohort and different people asking me like, saying it's so amazing what you're able to do as a freelancer. And I wish I could do that too. And I didn't understand why people were saying those types of things, because they're all completely capable of freelancing, just like I am. They could start doing it right now if they wanted to. And that's when I realized that a lot of people have that mentality. A lot of people in academia have that mentality that they're not qualified to do something outside of academia, which isn't true. Mm-hmm. And so I would always email back and forth with these people and answer their questions and give them different resources about joining freelancing and getting started like I did. And also I tried to help them in a way where they can learn from my mistakes. So, don't get on Fiverr and don't charge a low rate, like you're worth more, and how to find good clients. And so I was doing that back and forth with people for quite a few years, actually. Then I realized, okay, it would be better if I created some kind of resource for people. And so that is where the idea for the course came from, was just something like that basically answered all the questions an academic would have about getting into freelancing. There's lots of courses out there that'll teach you, here's, how to start in freelance, whatever. But this one's designed specifically to help people with an academic background use their existing skills to start out in freelancing, succeed in freelancing, and not have to start at square one.
And why do you think academics in particular are like well positioned to do this type of work and be successful at it?
Well, it takes a certain type of people to succeed or become an academic. And I think it's the same type of people who could do well in freelancing. Academics tend to be good researchers, they're good writers, and they're good at managing their own time. And those are things that are extremely valuable to freelancing. So it's not just freelance writing. There's other freelance niches too that the academics are well suited to. But for me, I was able to get into writing about marketing because I had research skills that I gained from my background in anthropology. I like to tell people that I use my anthropology degrees every day of the week because I use the skills that I gained from those degrees to do a good job as a freelancer. And so that's why I think other academics are also well suited for it.
Mm-hmm. And let's just give a little bit of a sneak peek into what kind of rates one could expect to even earn. So, I think some of this also requires a bit more discussion about what we mean by content. So different kinds of content. But let's just say an article that you would be ghostwriting for a publication like Medium or Thought Catalog or something like that. How much, what would be like a price range that a freelancer could expect to receive for a project like that?
It really depends on like you were saying, it depends on the type of content and where it's being published and whether or not it's ghostwriting or something like that. There are lots of writing agencies out there that you could get a job working for. And if you work for a writing agency, they're kind of the middleman, the broker between you and the clients, and they're not going to pay you very well. That's what I used to work for, was a writing agency, before I realized that that's not what I should be doing. But if you reach out and get your own clients, then you can charge them however much you want. Mm-hmm. And they'll, if somebody doesn't say yes to your rate, somebody else will. So it's pretty much like the sky's the limit, really. There's people, somebody will get you to write a 500-word blog post, and one person wants to pay you less than a cent a word. And then another person will pay you $1 a word. And it's the same content. It just all depends on what kind of clients you get.
Okay. Interesting. This has been super informative. And one of the reasons I really wanted to have you on to talk about this is two things. One, I am just a big proponent of I believe that everyone should have the ability to earn money at any point they need it. So I often ask people, do you have a skill that if you needed $1,000 in a week or 2 weeks, could you get that $1,000? And I think a lot of people do, especially this audience for grad school, absolutely do, but they don't always know how to activate it or even to think like that. And here's why this is so important to me, because we live in a time that, we can't only count on our employers to provide our sources of income. Jobs come and go, sometimes with very little notice. And other times you just want to have a little extra and you don't want your salary to be capped by what you do in your 9 to 5. And so I'm really a proponent of people being able to use their skills to be able to create more for themselves, be able to create a little bit more cushion, a bit more room, and for emergencies to not be as emergent, right? For things to not just come up and take you completely by surprise. And you go into panic mode. And so I love what you've put together. Your course is so well done. Just looking at your site and going through it, it's very well organized, bite-sized pieces for people to really learn and actually activate the information that you're providing. And it's affordably priced. And so I just really enjoy that you've taken the time to create this resource for people. And I want to be sure that if there's people in this grad school audience, like they know, hey, here's another option. Here is something else that you can do. And if nothing else, to learn more about it, if it interests them. So I'm really glad that you've been on today. And also, honestly, I just love talking about our retreat partners. The Genius Retreat it's amazing. It is coming together so well. And, we have people from all over the world who are joining the retreat. And your support as one of the content writers has really helped us to pull together like the beautiful page that we have that people can come to learn about the retreat. You were instrumental in helping with that. I mean, typically I am writing all of the copy, every email, every piece that people touch. And I don't think people realize just how time consuming that is. And not just time consuming, but the creativity that goes into that. And so finding your work, it's just been such a gift to have you as a partner on this project. And then to be able to showcase you in another way to our attendees and to our audience.
Yeah, I'm very excited to be a part of the retreat also, and I think that we got really lucky. That I reached out to you at a good time that we could collaborate, and I could help with the content writing.
Yeah. So as we wrap, tell people where they can find you if they're interested in learning more about what you do or about your course.
Yeah. So my website is academiatoaffluence.com. And I also have a Facebook page for it, and you can find it from the website also. And then if you also just wanted to see what a professional freelance writer's website looks like, you can check out my freelancer website also, which is CourtneyDanyel.com. And Danyel is spelled Danyel. Courtney is spelled the common way, CourtneyDanyel.com. So those are the two places. And you can find all my social media links from those two places.
I love it. Thank you so much, Courtney, for being here. And I cannot wait to retreat with you at the Genius Retreat in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Thanks for joining us this week on Grad School. Follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram at Fatimah, Ph.D. for more info on this episode and other professional development topics. As always, subscribe to the show and leave us a review so we can continue to bring you the topics you want most. See you next episode.